Let's continue our rookie recap review type series with GG Jackson, who played in Summer League last night, so he's been on my mind. And I was really curious to do this video, largely because I didn't watch a lot of the Memphis Grizzlies last year. They were obviously a disaster given all of the injuries, but that produced a really interesting and unique situation for GG. And that's kind of what we're going to focus on a lot of this video. It's obviously how was GG? Was he actually good? How was he impactful on both ends? But how can we project this moving forward? I can't remember a situation like this where GG was a primary ball handler for a team that's going to be competing for a title next year. Obviously because of the injuries. And GG's driving to me was the most interesting stuff that he brought to the table. He has a really seasoned driving kind of Euro package where he was great using his stride length and his size to smoothly step through defenders and finish at the rim. It seems like these moves are pretty well repped out and that he is very comfortable busting them out in a variety of ways. I love his variety of gathers and pickups as we see GG kind of put this defender in jail a little bit. We'll see more jail, but this is not easy stuff where the big is playing high at the level, but GG holds his handle, picks up the ball, swim moves past Zeke Naji, and ends up finishing strong with a dunk there. These flashes of driving ability were really enticing for a 6'9", 18-year-old. He was the youngest player in the NBA last year, I believe, and look at him guarded by Aaron Gordon, snaking this screen, and imagine when he's going to have Zach Edey setting these screens for him next year. Oh my goodness. Again, snaking back to his left. Good steal here by Jamison, but scoop layup with the weak hand. GG did so much fun driving stuff last year, and I'm just going to keep saying this. I'm very curious about plays like these, though, where how is this going to translate? Because GG is probably not going to be handling the ball at the top of the key, getting isolations and pick and rolls as much this year. Not with Ja and Bane and Smart and Jaren and all those guys back in the fold. But plays like this he will get, where Jackson draws a mismatch on a closeout, easily gets by Brook Lopez, wonky footwork to Euro past Malik Beasley. I love him kind of delaying this first step and going quick into that second step before rising to finish. It threw off Beasley's timing. He jumped way too early, and it helped GG end up getting a wide open shot at the rim. We can see how comfortable he is with this snake back step through move where he would really spam this. Again, we had a play just like this against the Nuggets earlier in the game where puts the defender on his back, goes back to the middle, hard pound, slips through and finishes strong. That time with his left hand, and I believe that was the off foot as well. Yep, jumping off of the left foot, throwing off Duran's timing. This is advanced stuff for an 18-year-old, and I think this is another one of these type plays where he's going to the other side. Exact same move, but on the other side of the floor, where against Aaron Gordon, once again, snaking back to the middle, hard pounding and sliding through this gap. This was the coolest stuff that I saw from GG, and I honestly really didn't expect it coming in. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but this kind of polish as a driver was really welcome, and I think it's an interesting thing to look at going forward. Plays like this, again, going to be really important. Attacking closeouts one pass away. Malik Beasley jumps. I don't really know what he's doing there, but hangs in the air, jump off two, GG finishing strong. And he wasn't totally efficient at the rim, but I think he was at 40th, 50th percentile at the rim. And given how many unassisted shots he had, that's pretty impressive to me. GG definitely needs to get stronger, but when he was going up against players of his same age like Bilal Coulibaly, you could kind of see the vision of a GG with real strength. He does a great job maintaining a straight line on this drive instead of being rounded and making himself into a tough spot, boxing himself into the baseline. He hop steps, goes straight through Coulibaly, seals him off, and finishes strong through contact there. That's a nice glimpse into the future right there. What a strong GG Jackson could end up look like. I definitely did have some concerns where GG wasn't always creating a ton of advantages. He was very reliant on this kind of footwork, touch, finishing, and that's a pretty hard sell at times. It's really hard to make a living in the NBA off of tough shots, and once again, we see him get Gobert kind of booming. This might have been a travel that was uncalled. I'm not sure. The Wolves certainly think so, but very tough finish. Again, off foot with that right foot, scooping over Gobert. I do have my concerns with the level of difficulty, but that was an undeniably impressive play. The driving feel is going to be an interesting question because he kind of had license to do whatever he wanted last year. But that's not going to be the case where he's going to have to be making simple passes where Gigi sometimes would kind of just drive straight into defenders and throw the ball up and figure it out, which is a fairly common thing that young players do. But a lot of these plays doesn't seem to be like much of a plan. He's trying to do the same step through move. He picks it up, dribbles hard, and goes back to his left. He's trying to do that move, but he doesn't end up creating any separation and takes a poor shot. So these are going to be types of plays that Gigi is definitely going to need to clean up. Again, we see him kind of spinning to nowhere. I do think his change of pace outside of the Euro steps is pretty raw. Gigi is mostly a one-speed driver where he isn't the quickest or most explosive player, which is not great for these kind of players because even like one-speed drivers who are insanely explosive can make it work. Gigi isn't insanely explosive, and without a screen doesn't always create advantages, but amazing screen here, just flattening off. Precious, but he isn't able to create separation. The footwork can't really move Hartenstein at all, and then basically no effort to end up blocking that shot. So with all of the good driving flashes, there were plenty of questionable driving flashes where he was isolating, kind of going nowhere, throwing up a bad shot late in the shot clock. And the decision making is something I've seen Grizzlies fans complain about for sure, and something that I do think is going to need to be cleaned up, especially playing in an off-ball role where, again, Gigi just driving straight through a defender, loses his handle to the dig there. This stuff happened a good amount last year. Just as much as the positive driving stuff, there was some negative driving stuff when it comes to his tightness with the handle and his lack of creativity at times outside of those kind of Euro finishes, which I think were the absolute highlight of what he did. Another big question is going to be how legit of a shooter he is. Gigi was like 36, 37% last year on solid volume, and he did show some impressive flashes, catching from a few feet beyond the line, immediately going up and firing. And if he can maintain this kind of efficiency on catch and shoots, it's going to be really, really big for him playing next to Ja and Bane. And he should get more open shots because a lot of his threes were self-created last year where he showed the ability to use his handle and step back and stuff to create space and hit these jumpers. But this just isn't a really efficient way to live unless you're one of the few elite wing pull-up shooters. Loved this space creation against Wemby, by the way. Kind of like a penny spin here, stepping forward with his inside foot, getting Wemby to back up, firing over him. That's a clean look, and I think a really positive play overall. The space creation and that kind of stuff is really, really advanced. But Gigi isn't super comfortable playing off of the catch, or at least not as much as I would hope him to be for his role going forward with the Grizzlies. He often needed to take a dribble to set himself up and shoot instead of just pulling off the catch, which really slows the flow of offense and gives defenses another chance to recover. He's not comfortable just ripping the ball off of the catch, so he has to pull up, give Buddy time to get a decent contest, and Gigi ends up not making that shot because of that level of hesitation, which is going to have to improve for sure. But there were good flashes of him playing off of the ball too. I loved this play where we can see Gigi first, obviously, swinging the ball on the perimeter. He keeps it moving. He's not ball hogging. He finds Jaren, who's open, and then he relocates, just subtly relocates away from Jackson to move himself away from the help, ends up getting a wide open shot, and he's able to cash that. So these flashes of off-ball movement and this feel away from the basketball, the awareness playing next to other on-ball players was pretty promising. And I liked his ability to take these like one dribble pull-ups where Deuce McBride runs him off the line, and shot clock, Gigi smooth one dribble pull-up. He was very inefficient shooting pull-ups from the mid-range. He was like 20-30% from mid-range, and I don't think it's a shot I want him taking as much. I can't imagine Gigi will be, and this is going to be one of the interesting points to see is Gigi going to default to these shots when this is John Morant and this is Desmond Bane and this is Jaren Jackson and this is Zach Edey or whoever? Is he going to take these inefficient long twos that he isn't that great at? I honestly can't say that I know for sure. It's such a hard situation to really take away from because of the weird context, but more flashes of the off ball stuff. Really good job of Gigi face cutting right in front of a sleeping Jaden Ivey. Ends up finishing strong. These are the flashes I'm holding on to for playing next to John Morant and Desmond Bain. I love Gigi doing more like off ball, big man play finishing stuff. And I think ultimately he's going to end up as more of like a secondary play finisher, which is not a slight at all. I don't mean this as a slight in any way. But Gigi, this is awesome. Kind of backs into this dunker spot, takes a dribble, holds up against Brook Lopez, pump fakes, and dunks through him. That is a really promising play for a young player who's mostly comfortable playing on the ball. This was a really nice initial closeout attack, kind of jabbing to the inside, crossing back to the outside. I mean, it's Georges Niang, so I'm not going to get too overly excited at a play like that. I don't love the finishing, though. Again, some of this over-reliance on these wonky touch off-foot finishes. And if the defense sniffs this kind of play out, right, where Gigi is trying to throw off the shot blocker's timing but doesn't do it, then these plays become exponentially more difficult to execute because they're reliant on the defense and the shot blockers not knowing what's going on and you throwing off that rhythm. Gigi's passing is going to have to improve. I don't think his feel is like outlier bad for an 18-year-old or anything. And there were solid ideas where he notices this open man and tries to kick it with his offhand, but doesn't notice Miller in the passing lane, who's able to end up getting a pretty easy steal there. But there were some kind of workable flashes where Gigi here gets into the paint. Unfortunately, the beginning of this play got cut off, but gets into the paint, draws help, simple kick out. Nothing crazy, but these are the kind of plays that we want to be seeing. It ends up grabbing the offensive board, making another kick out there. A couple positive passes on this play. And I really liked this rep because it felt more translatable to what might happen with him as an off-ball player. Rather than stagnant pick and rolls, here he is working this zoom action with Xavier Tillman. He's working a second side pick and roll and is able to fire that into a really tight window. This is an excellent pass. His Huerter's right there, but Gigi, recognizes that Tillman has this space underneath the basket. There isn't anyone below him, so he rifles that in. And great catch by Tillman to hold on to the ball and end up finishing there. But that's a really good secondary type assist that I think hopefully is what you're hoping Gigi can really learn to execute. And some of these plays where he was trying these reads, I like a lot of them, even though they ended in turnovers. Gigi beating Trayce Jackson-Davis off the dribble with the hang cross, draws help, and again we see him try one of his like wonky gather high pickups, and I like the idea to wrap it around to Trey Jamison here. Pods ends up making a great play by knocking the ball away, but that's a pretty high level read and delivery attempt that I think when Gigi cleans up his footwork and his timing and all of that stuff that tends to come with age and experience, it can be really good. And when I imagine what Gigi might look like on a better team, I think of a guy like Jerami Grant, who these tall on-ball shooters who can do some stuff where they're pulling up from the mid-range and hitting threes off of the catch. But a guy like Jerami who's played off the ball, played on the ball, and more of like a post scorer than Gigi is, but can really create a little bit for himself. Not someone who you want being your primary initiator, but as a secondary guy, he can really do some stuff. And he's had a lot of experience lifting weaker offenses as the primary guy, getting into defenders with his handle and just his overwhelming size at times for a perimeter guy. And I really don't mean this to sound slanderous, but there is some Tobias Harris maybe as like a median outcome, but like hopefully a more consistent, less bad vibes Harris. And peak Tobias Harris, like Clippers and early Sixers career, was a damn good player. And again, we see some basic pick and roll driving, winning with size and speed relative to other tall players. Harris, inconsistent, but at times has the ability to play off of the ball and be a good cutter next to Embiid and whoever else he played for. And again, I truly don't mean this as slander, and I think Gigi has a higher ceiling than this. I think he can definitely be better than Tobias and Jerami Grant. I think as like a median 50th, 60th, 70th percentile outcome on a good team, I'm just trying to imagine what the role might look like. And even at a low end, I think he could operate like Rui, another one of these tall, talented offensive players who has adapted as an off-ball shooter and a cutter and a secondary driver, despite being like an isolation mid-post scorer early in his career. Like I said, I think Gigi has the chance to be a lot better than that in the future, but he's not going to get the chance to be like a primary guy anytime soon, I would imagine, just because of the team he plays on. And then defensively, I think it's so hard to take stuff away because of how bad the defense was and how young it was. But the Grizzlies really put Gigi through a murderer's row of assignments as the primary handler. He guarded LeBron here, ends up getting beat, but kind of recovers a little bit. And Gigi did get beat a lot, but like we're going to see, he guarded a lot of really good players. He's guarding Jamal Murray over the pick and roll and ends up contesting, decently. He probably could have been better, but Jamal ends up finishing over him. So we have LeBron, we have Jamal Murray. Here he's checking Paolo Banchero in a full sprint and is able to block this shot from behind. Gigi's speed at that size is really great. Even if he's not the most like sudden or twitchy guy, he is so fluid and fast for 6'9 and 6'10 that he can utilize that on defense to get blocks and to cover ground and to just kind of be a menace. Now we have him guarding Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We're seeing the kind of assignments they made this 18-year-old take on night in and night out. And even though it wasn't always great, and I think I could, I could show 5 straight minutes of clips of Gigi Jackson like zoning out like this and kind of losing position and not having great awareness. But I just don't think that's super instructive because, one, he's so young and played on such a mess of a team, especially when Jaren wasn't out there. The defense was absolutely atrocious, and I don't think it's fair to pin like all of that blame on Gigi. I do wish he played with more force at times at the point of attack, where Micic was like very easily able to just kind of blow by him. He's not the quickest twitch guy laterally, as we kind of mentioned, and like I said, there's no real force here trying to cut him off. He kind of just holds his hand up, hopes his size can be enough, but at the NBA level, that's really not the case. But there were some flashes of like the off-ball defense, even if it wasn't always great, as Jackson is kind of just zoning out off the ball here. He definitely needs to be responsible for tagging Porzingis and making sure this pass doesn't get through, but Gigi zones out, likely worried about Horford, and ends up giving up an easy layup. But I also want to note on a play like this, Luke Kennard isn't really providing much help on defense. Neither is David Roddy. Jamison wasn't an amazing defender. So it's not like everyone else was doing their part and Gigi was the only one screwing up. Everyone was screwing up all the time for this Grizzlies team. And Gigi just happened to be making a lot of mistakes because he's a very young rookie. He was really, really rough guarding and chasing off of screens, which I can't imagine is something that he's pretty much ever going to do in the NBA, like for a long time, where Gigi is kind of trailing over this defender, trying to chase Cam Johnson, gets stuck because he just doesn't really have the strength or agility at this point to guard these kind of actions. But again, this is a lot to ask of a rookie trying to guard Terry Rozier here. He gets totally caught on that screen. Shocker, 6'10 rookie forward, can't really guard quick point guards. Again, we see him taking a bad path, but Gigi ends up getting a really nice block here as he takes a bad path, gets stuck on the Okoro screen, goes under for some reason, but recovers and blocks, and oftentimes he would show this really good energy and awareness to get back into plays and recover and try his best. But for every one play like that, there were 5 plays like this where Gigi would just zone out off of the ball, lose his man relocating to the wing there, and ends up giving up a wide open 3. This was extremely common, and I do think I have some worries about his defense long-term because of that baseline of feel and awareness. I had this play twice by accident. It is hard to improve like the awareness and feel stuff, and Gigi, as we've got into, is like a good, not great athlete, very fluid and a great mover. I love this flash here, using his length to dig in on Harrison Barnes at the nail, ends up forcing a turnover. Here on this next play, we're going to see Jackson zoning up the weak side and getting a really nice steal, reading that Keegan Murray pass, and then we're going to end this video off with another nice off-ball play. Gigi Jackson reading this opening, where we saw in the other play against the Celtics where he didn't kind of help on a similar play, where even before Kornet passes this ball, look, Gigi is moving towards Holiday because he knows this is where the gap is. Great recognition to be in that space. Forced Drew into a tough turnaround. So defense, I would never bet on him being a great defender, but I think he could be all right just because of his movement skills and his size and some of the on-ball defense flashes that he's shown. Offense is certainly the most interesting thing, and I probably wouldn't say that GG has a true star ceiling. I would say the feel and some of the high-end athletic tool stuff are a little bit limiting, and I don't know if he's going to be in a position to showcase those over the next couple years. And I am curious about how that's going to impact his development. GG is going to be asked right away to go from this terrible trash team where he could kind of do whatever he wanted to playing on a team that's hoping to contend for a title and playing a complementary role, whether as a fifth starter or as a useful piece off of the bench. That's going to be a big adjustment for GG, and it wouldn't shock me to see him struggling early on in this very different role. But I do think at the very least he's going to be a solid to good NBA player. He's so young, fluid with the ball, and I think he's going to be a good enough shooter as well. And even if I don't know if he has true star upside as a wing creator, he has the offensive and the scoring tools and the defensive upside to be a long-time rotation player in the league. Overall, I think what GG showed in his rookie year should be a lot of room for optimism. And I'm fascinated to see how he ends up working as more of an off-ball guy in year 2 and just how this all translates to a very different situation.